and preparation for them? Because so far it just seems like your success of a season, not you, a lacrosse team's success depends on winning the one goal games. And one goal games, I don't have to tell you, can go either way. What does it take in preparation to you're 2-0 in one goal games, and it makes the season being 4-0. But what preparations does it take from you to get the team ready mentally for those situations?
Well, we try to explain to them, it's a one goal world. I think just the way the lacrosse world is right now, there's so much parity. There's so many good players. There's a lot of good coaching. There's a lot of development. So everybody you play against is going to be athletic. They're going to have their own style. You've got to kind of adjust to their style, and they're going to run schemes that are different than you're probably doing. So each week, you kind of have to get a sense of, all right, this is the animal we're going against. But then I think, knowing that games are tight, then it's like making sure you realize, like, it's not just the last 4 minutes that matter. It's everything that matters. And taking pride in, everything you do. And it's kind of goes with just our culture here of, be the best. It's like taking pride in everything, because in those close games, like those little things add up. And so, just taking pride in that ground ball, whether it's a technique, how you're going through it, the way you shoot, backing up the goal, something simple as that, getting back on defense, defensively, right? Trying to be disciplined, not taking a lot of fouls, and not being overly aggressive. And, one thing you're seeing a lot this year is, they're definitely looking closely at any high hits, anything to the head. So, when you make contact, it's, you watch a lot of youth lacrosse, guys lead with their hands a lot. Like, guys do not lead with their shoulder. They lead with their hands. It's kind of natural. It protects themselves, right? Because you have the shaft. But if you lead with that shaft and it gets high, now you're talking 2 minutes, and like, that really puts you in a bind, because that's 2 minutes out of that quarter of 15 minutes that you're going to be down a man and probably playing defense, and you're certainly not usually scoring there. So you're giving up 2 minutes. And it happened, in the first half of Syracuse. Out of our first 30, we were 4 minutes man down. Like, you're just putting yourself in a really tough bind. You're gassing yourself. So I just think, kind of just preparing for the guys, and we tell them, like, hey, this is probably going to be a close game. Like, just get ready for it. It's not a big deal. We play a lot of good teams. You're not doing anything wrong if it's close. It's just the way that it is. We're going to get everybody's best shot. And you don't need to be tight. You don't need to, like, grip your stick too hard. Like, just play, and just be in the moment, be present, control the things you can control, and have some fun doing it. But you're right. Like, I mean, you kind of look at, that game last night, like Syracuse is really, 2 goals away from being undefeated. Those, you're right. Those games can go either way. And what you're hoping is just the way you've done things since August, or the guys that have been here for a few years. Hopefully, if, those things have been, fundamental things ingrained, maybe you win more of those games just because you're not beating yourself. You've like been disciplined, like you've done things the right way. And that's a big part of what you're doing every day. Is like, sometimes it's not so much, hey, if you do this, it's going to be amazing. It's like, hey, if you do this, it just takes away an opportunity for someone else. Like, just simply running back into the hole, and hustling back, and busting your butt. If you can do that, then you put yourself in a position to win. Like, you look at that Loyola Towson game the other night. I mean, it's a late situation. You have the ball, you'd like to run that clock down. And then all of a sudden, just something happens. And those things do happen. And Loyola scores with like 0.9 seconds left. And like, those are the ones that, and we've been there, like, you lose that game and you're like second guessing everything throughout the game. because you're hoping it doesn't come down to that. It's never just that one play. But man, oh man, like just that one play, getting it, boy, oh boy, you feel a lot different. The kids feel a lot different after the game.
You ever wake up in the middle of the night and think, "Oh my God, Luke's not going to be here next year"? All right.
Uh, I certainly did that last year with Brett Makar. Certainly did that the year before with Logan Wisnauskas, among others. And you kind of know, good players leave, and but then new guys appear, and obviously, like that's the sad part of it is you do get attached to the guys, you build relationships, you connect with the guys, but you also know like it's time for them to go out and do different things and go impact other people and kind of navigate the rest of their lives. But I'd be lying if I said we didn't get attached to them just because they're these guys are great to be around. Luckily, they come back a lot, which is good.
Yeah, Brandon.
Hey, coach. So, with Notre Dame, a lot of the recent battles have come down to the wire. I think 3 out of the last 5 have gone to overtime. What is it about playing them, especially recently, that kind of gets these continuous games down the stretch? Is there an added edge going into it?
They're just really good. We play them because they're really good. Coach Corrigan has done this a long time. He has a really good feel for what works at his place. They recruit at a high level. They've done an awesome job in the portal. They have a nice situation where, they can get some guys for grad season, it's mutually beneficial, you look at the 2 guys from Yale last year, Fake and Tevlin. Those guys, just what they brought to the table among some of the other guys they had. But they have good talent. They have 3 very experienced coaches, and like Ryan Wellner and Chris Wojcik. You got 2 of the 3 have already been head coaches. So they're buttoned up everywhere. They're big, they're athletic, they're deep. So you look at how hard they play. I think that's one thing that I think everybody appreciates about their team, specific to the Kavanaughs. They're very skilled players. They have high IQs, but those kids, their competitive spirit is off the charts. Like, all week you're preparing for them, riding and getting tough ground balls. And when they do, usually that creates more opportunities or second chances or unsettled. So you do spend a lot of the week, trying to make sure you put pressure on your guys. We're spending a lot of time in the clearing game, just like chasing our guys around, feeling pressure, trying to simulate what they do. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. Obviously, you can't necessarily do it with just what they do. You got to do some different things to maybe confine some space or adding extra players. And forcing your guys to process quickly, handle pressure, and still find open guys and still have good stick work. So you simulate what you're going to see on Saturday. But they're just good everywhere. If you're able to get leverage and get a good shot, you're dealing with a guy who seems like he's been there forever. A lot of people feel like is the best goalie in the country. They have obviously a really talented attack. They got 2 deep midfields. They got a stable of D middies. They got a lot of experienced poles. They got a face-off guy that was, obviously in big moments always plays well. He's tough. He's scrappy. He just does a really good job. So they're good everywhere. They don't make a lot of mistakes. So you have to earn everything with them. So you just got to remind the guys, like, again, it's going to be probably a slugfest, and you just got to just kind of ride the highs and the lows and just keep trying to make the next play.
Yeah, and you kind of just mentioned kind of how talented they are. And a lot of the team is back for this season. They're very similar from last year's, most notably the Kavanaughs and Taman. Kind of, is the game plan going into this weekend similar to the one last year? Do you tweak it at all? Kind of how much do you use what you learned last year for this time?
Yeah, you always go back, whether it's a year or 2 or whatever. I think we all will every year we assess kind of what we did and what we didn't do well, and you'll change some things in house and such. But a lot of times coaches, they just they just kind of have like, all right, this is how we play defense, and the way we play defense, we've certainly tweaked some things and adjusted, but fundamentally, like what we do now, a lot of it is stuff that Jesse, like learned as a player here. It's just something that, we believe in. But as we go through, as the game evolves and you have different players, and the game does change and people are using different strategies, you have to adapt as well. And just kind of going back to your point, like just going back a couple of years and watching some of those games again, a lot of the same players the last couple of years, offensively and defensively, and you are looking at kind of what did they do well, and then you're kind of looking at like, hey, where did we fall short? Maybe where did we make some mistakes? Like, if we could do it differently. And after every game, you're kind of taking some notes, and you kind of do a debrief internally on like, what you did during the week to get ready for, let's say, Princeton last week. And then you'll kind of like after the game go, all right, we practiced these things, probably should have practiced this more, or this worked and this didn't work. They did this, we didn't expect that. Because you never know, you might play them again later in the year, but you also want to go back to those things next year. So we certainly go back to those things with Notre Dame. But the Kavanaughs, what you're getting from them. Like they're ultra competitive. Obviously they're very dynamic. They will run off picks. They're, gonna feed the ball, throw guys open. Jake Taylor's another great player that he's like very much an unscripted guy, like ground balls around the goal. He picked one up last week and threw it in behind the back. So it's hard to mimic what some of those guys do. You'll watch film on it. You'll ask our scout guys to do it, but it's hard. You're trying to be somebody else. But you can get some schematic tendencies, things they've done, things that maybe you anticipate. If a team wins, I think we're all kind of likely to do more of what we did. I think them last week losing, you really do have to kind of go, all right, it didn't go the way they wanted. What did Georgetown do? Is there anything that we do that we might be able to steal from them or utilize, or, is that something we wouldn't want to do because it might confuse the guys? And then you're anticipating like, all right, after that, like, what are they going to do differently? Like if we did the same thing, what would their adjustment be? Will they switch lines around? Will they move some guys around? And so you're trying to anticipate that, never really knowing, but you'd like to go into it going, all right, what if they move someone else into the first midfield? Obviously, later in the game, they moved another guy into attack with the Kavanaughs. So how does that change things for us? What if they put someone else down there? So you are like, kind of having some hypotheticals, but we always remind the guys when you're in the game, you got to be ready for adjustments. They may throw something at us that we haven't seen. They may see some stuff that other teams have done that gave us problems and utilize that maybe they haven't done. So we need to be able to make those adjustments in game. So it is something we do talk about during the year is, whether we're practicing in October or in early January, when we bring it in and we talk about things and then we go out and do a drill, it's like, hey, you need to implement these things because we could be in a game and we may say, all right, we're going to do this now. And we can't wait 3 or 4 possessions till we get it right. Like we need to be on point as quickly as we can. So that's kind of the chess match that goes on during the week. You're trying to find maybe chinks in the armor. They are too, but not getting too far away from the things you've done. So your kids play slowly.
And then kind of just quick last one for me. With the meeting this year, last year, you guys kind of blew that 2-goal lead with 4 minutes left. It was really your first kind of close game, first overtime game at this point of the season. But now this year, you've had 2 overtime games. You've kind of really been in these tight battles. Do you feel maybe that your team this year at this moment is kind of more equipped for these close games if it comes down the stretch to close out to be able to pull it out in overtime?
I think any coach would say if you've been in some tight battles and they've gone your way, I do think it's human nature to go, hey, we've been in this spot and it's worked out. If you're in tight spots and you don't win, you got to kind of coach your guys up and remind them that those things don't carry over. Maybe we learned some things, and just because they didn't go well the last time doesn't mean they can't go well. But we are human, and you know, there could be a tendency for anybody in any sport to go, oh God, here we go again. And so, you know, part of what you're trying to do is teach people about life. And it's like, hey, sometimes like things don't go your way, but like those things, they don't come to the next game. It's a new game. It's, you know, maybe if we learn some things, maybe we will be better equipped. But I think any coach would take, hey, we've been in some tough games and it's worked out, because there is some confidence that comes from that. And I do think, you know, getting a guy like Logan back, you know, who's been in those close games, you know, you're looking at a guy who's in his 5th year, who's logged a lot of miles, who just at his core is just one of those guys that never gets too high or too low. I think there's definitely some value to that. And then obviously the way Luke's been playing, you know, you kind of look and go, you got to start it all over again each game. But, you know, you are buttoned up in 2 really important areas in the sport of lacrosse. So even if you're down early or you're down late or it is tight, I just think there is some belief there that, hey, if we can get that next possession, which may come from a save, it may come from a face-off win, that's all we need to get the ball, and maybe something good could happen. And we'll need all those things against Notre Dame. You know, they like if you look at that game last year, you know, Luke won most of the face-offs, at least the majority of them, but Notre Dame got some really important ones late. And I think that's something that, you know, I think you tip your hat to a guy like Will Lynch, like those, you know, down 2 goals late with 4 minutes, like he wins a couple key faceoffs and those possessions turn into goals. And, you know, we just couldn't get the stops there. We couldn't get the ball to our end and maybe put them in a position where maybe they would have to kind of get outside of their comfort zone, where they got to chase and double. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I think for us, you know, again, I think there's good motivation for our guys. You know, even though they lost last week, we realize how the lacrosse world is, and realized last year they beat us. And I think if you're a competitive guy, that is something that, you know, hopefully fuels your fire, but doesn't really carry over, because at the end of the day, it's going to be 0-0 with 2 teams trying to get after each other come noon on Sunday.
Hey, Coach, do we know about weather forecast yet? Is the game going to be outside, or are they going to move it indoors?
Looks like 60 on Saturday and cloudy, and 64 on Sunday. That was the last I checked. I don't know if I put my phone on. It got to as high as 70 when I looked at my phone not too long ago. So every time I go out there, 68, mostly sunny right now on Sunday. So Monday, thunderstorms. So yeah, unseasonably warm out there, 70 degrees on Monday and thunderstorms. So, you know, I don't think we're going inside. So no talk of that so far. I think we're definitely happy about that. It's still going to be a challenge, but being outside where we're used to, I think we'll take that.
Yeah, we don't need, I mean, that inside stuff's crazy. But the other thing I'm wondering about, and you hear it a lot, you know, kind of in the general lacrosse world, how hard is it, even though 2022 is 2 seasons ago, you still get compared to that historic team, especially on offense. You know, the offense has been playing so much better this year, but there's still this constant comparison to, man, they're not at 42% efficiency. Like that's like that happens all the time, right? How do you try to keep those guys, especially in the offensive end, you know, just comfortable with just being who they are, playing how they are, and not tuning all that noise out about how great the offense was 2 years ago?
Yeah, there's a saying, and Chris Mattis is a guy that coached with us, and he's been with the Patriots the last few years as signing. He told me in the Patriots facility, where comparison is the thief of joy, you know, where, you know, like we really can't compare ourselves to anybody else. We just got to be the best version of ourselves. We can certainly learn from other teams, good and bad. I think stylistically, there's a lot of things that we want to continue to do that we were doing in 22, and 21 and 20 and 19. And a lot of it is not anything that is, like just, earth shaking. When you think of guys like John Donville and Keegan Khan and Logan Wisnauskas, they were not necessarily dynamic athletes, but they were really good decision makers. They shared the ball. They played fast. They were guys that could play with and without the ball. But we just didn't get it to them and say, hey, go win the game. So I think there's definitely like things that we can teach other, like our younger guys is, hey, it's really not about you just going back there and just blowing by people and getting to the goal every time. And, Jared Bernhardt kind of did some things, but Jared Bernhardt is kind of very rare in terms of his, obviously his dynamic ability, his athleticism, but those other guys were just really good lacrosse players. So, try to get our young guys just to, kind of play free, be simple, not feel like they have to win the game. A team like Notre Dame, they have good athletes. So, just kind of lining up and going, all right, win your matchup and score in 5 seconds is usually pretty hard. So just realizing that, hey, let's get into a flow. Let's make sure everybody gets a touch of the ball and let's play well together, be dangerous off ball, be in the right spots. But you're going to have to be aggressive. We're going to have to win some matchups. Last week, it just didn't seem like they really wanted to slide a whole lot. And so Georgetown had to win some matchups, and at times they did. But again, even when you do, you got to beat a darn good goalie and a guy we have a lot of respect for. So I think for our guys, to your point, like, we're still growing and evolving. That 22 team was very experienced, a lot of older guys. So we're really not built that way. We still have, some guys like an Eric Maliver who didn't play last year, and Urksa has only played about a full year. So you're kind of looking at that going, all right, well, it's hard to compare those two teams because it's not apples to apples. But I do think in certain ways we are making progress. I would have liked to seen us shoot better. But I give credit to the Princeton goalie. But I didn't feel like we maybe shot as well as we could have. So that means this week really going back and working on our shooting and trying to get better there. And again, it's only week 4, so lots to work on. But we know, obviously with the defending national champions, we're going to have to play a better 60 minutes. That's what teams like this force you to do. And again, to me, that's why kids come here. They want to play in these games. You could go either way, but like, to me, that's what life's all about, is taking on these big challenges.
Can I just ask one more question, John?
Oh yeah.
A guy like Ryan Syracuse is sort of a really great story. It's in his 5th year. He comes out of high school, I think, playing attack, prolific scorer, and gets some time here and there. But now this year he's running on that first midfield line and adding a different dimension to with his kind of explosiveness. And just curious to hear your thoughts on him and how he's developed and how he's stuck to it.
Yeah, super happy for Ryan. Everybody's journey is different. Like making the jump from high school to college, it's harder than I think a lot of people think. The game's just really different. And some guys adapt faster than others. And that could be for a variety of reasons. And so, I think most of our guys are not necessarily the most patient guys in the world. I know as coaches, we're not. I think most people in this country aren't particularly patient. So when it's not coming as quickly as you want, you can get frustrated. And Ryan was, sitting behind some pretty good guys. But what I appreciate with him is he spent a lot of time on our scout team, and, you have some choices to make when you're playing on the scout team. You can take your job seriously and try to develop, because if you are playing on the scout team, you're playing against guys like Ajax and Brett Makar. And, you're getting better just because you're playing against those guys every day. You're not getting that gratification on Saturday, but Monday through Friday, there's a lot of development that can take place. And, Eric Spanos was another guy that kind of played a lot with Ryan on the scout team. And I think they have a good chemistry. We kind of saw that last year. And we're seeing it again now. And I give Ryan a lot of credit. He's in a grad program now, but it's Tuesday and Thursday. He's usually out shooting between 10 and 11. He's usually out here doing some extra work, just trying to work on his game, and working on his releases, his right hand, his left hand, and shooting the ball different ways. And to me, that investment, is paying off. And again, we're psyched that a guy like him would just, hey, I'm going to go out and try to get a little bit better, because all those hours are going to pay off at some point. So again, great role model for the younger guys. It may not happen right away. And it is pretty hard to happen right away at a place like Maryland. The other guys have been here 3-4 years. They should have a big advantage. So don't get frustrated, enjoy the process, focus on the process, and it'll all be worth it in the end. And it'll be that much more gratifying once you get it. And I do think it's a little bit of a test of what they're going to face in the real world, where, it's not just easy to walk into a company and get to where you want to get to. You really got to earn the respect of your coworkers, your peers, your constituents. And you're going to have some tough moments, and you just got to be able to every day just, come in focused and really forget about what's happened before and just have a good day every day. And then at some point, hopefully somebody takes notice to what you've done. So I always feel like things like that are easy for us to kind of teach them and say, hey, this is how it's going to be down the road. So there's only one way to handle it. And Ryan's been great. He really has. I don't know where we'd be without him.
Everyone good? Anything else?
Yeah, one quick thing, Coach. I don't care what happens, if it's a thunderstorm or whatever, but if Corrigan wants to play that game indoors, please get on a plane and come home. Because I've been to that indoor stadium, okay?